Chai is the drink that fuels India. India runs on this cup of hot beverage. But did you know that India's addiction to chai was in fact the result of one of the greatest marketing campaigns by the British? It changed our lives, habits and culture forever. This is the story of how tea conquered India in just 20 years and turned it into one of the largest consumers and producers of tea in the world. Tea drinking started in China way back in the 4th century. From there, it spread to Japan, Burma and Thailand. Yet India somehow wasn't charmed by chai. But there was a problem. Not for us, but for our colonial masters. By the late 1820s, the East India Company was growing nervous. They feared losing their monopoly over the China trade, which in 1833 they did. Their biggest import from China was tea, so they needed a backup plan. The way tea was grown in China didn't help either. Small family-run farms, labor-intensive methods, great for quality, but not so much for consistency. It just couldn't keep up with Britain's growing obsession. To make things worse, the British in India had to transport their tea all the way from England. It was slow, expensive and inefficient. In 1834, a tea committee was set up to look into the idea of growing tea in India. They decided to grow tea right here in India, and Assam was the perfect spot. Although the initial days of growing tea were something of a shambles. The Indian Tea Association was set up in 1881 to bring some order to the chaos. After some trial and error, by the 1900s, Assam tea was a super hit with the British, even in the UK. By this time, only 10% of the tea drunk in Britain came from China, while over 50% was from India and 30% from Ceylon. Indian tea was considered the best, and it was in such demand that Lipton even hired an Indian man to stand outside their cafe in London as a walking advert. But back home, tea was nothing more than an occasional home remedy for cough and cold. The British were frustrated that the biggest country in their empire was still not drinking any tea. The idea of drinking tea every day was alien to Indians. To change this, the British started offering free tea bags and liquids at government offices. The idea was simple. If workers drank enough tea at work, they'd take the habit home. But for tea to really catch on, it had to be made at home. Office canteens weren't usually visited by women, so a special team of British demonstrators was sent door to door every day, house by house, street by street, showing families how to brew the perfect cup. Ladies were guided through the ritual. How to put the kettle on, the precise spoonfuls of tea, the exact drops of milk. It was methodical, meticulous, almost military. While the wealthy had been converted, the working class wasn't convinced just yet. It wasn't just the tea, but the whole setup. Drinking tea needed teapots, china cups, and sugar bowls. It was too complicated and costly for Indian families. Until the First World War. Now factory workers had to work long shifts. To keep them cheerful and energized, factory owners encouraged tea breaks. Tea stalls were set up at factories, mills and coal mines. By 1919, the tea canteen had become a key part of industrial life. And it worked. The workers now wanted to drink tea even at home. Now it was all about making tea easily accessible.
Chai bolo chai! Chai bolo chai!
Chaiwalas became very important. They were the first marketeers employed by the British to sell quick, accessible drinks to travelers. The British gave them strict instructions on how to make a proper cup of tea. But in true Indian fashion, chaiwalas added heaps of sugar and milk, creating an intensely sweet, milky concoction that we all call chai. This new sweet drink became wildly popular. Soon, tea shops started popping up in markets and stalls started selling tea spiked with spices like cinnamon, cloves, ginger and even pepper. This outrageous concoction posed a problem for the British. With so much sugar and milk, it needed very little actual tea leaves, and it was cheaper than the kind of cuppa that the British drank, which used more tea and few drops of milk. They soon tried to shut these tea stalls down, but Indians with their classic flair for jugaad already made milky chai an essential part of life. Masala chai was more than a recipe tweak. It was India's way of reclaiming tea from the British, making it affordable and uniquely Indian. India went from barely drinking tea to growing it across more than 6 lakh hectares of land. That's the size of 6 Londons. Today, we are the second largest tea producer in the world and one of the biggest tea lovers too. We drink 80% of what we grow. And when it comes to exports, Indian teas like Assam, Darjeeling and Nilgiri are among the finest picks around the world. Darjeeling tea now holds a GI tag, and in 2014, the Makaiberry Darjeeling tea was sold for 1.5 lakh rupees per kilo. In just a few decades, tea transformed from a foreign habit into the soul of Indian life. Chai is the heart of India, but its origins, a tale of colonial marketing genius.
Go on, have a cup of tea.
Thank you very much.
There you go. There you go.
Do you regret your comments, sir?
I want you.
For more such stories that help you understand India from farm to plate, subscribe to The Plate India.